I'm very happy to be the coordinator for one important panel we are trying to put together. This is not the title of the panel, this is my part of the panel, but I wish I had another slide giving us the title. Nevertheless, let me read out the title to you. The idea is to talk about creating digital resources for the promotion of indigenous languages. We did not mention country or any particular province because we wanted it to be general. We had international audience in mind. We were supposed to have Gilvan Muller de Oliveira with us, who is a Brazilian and who was supposed to talk on his experiences in creating digital resources for Latin American languages. That's why we left the title broad. But unfortunately, since he was not able to get tickets on time to be in India, he's going to arrive after our program. So we lost him in the panel. Nevertheless, he has agreed to deliver a plenary talk tomorrow on oral literatures of Latin America online. I hope I will be here by 9:30 to set it up, and we begin exactly at 10, because for him it's 1:30. It's going to be 1:30 in the middle of the night. We should not delay it. We cannot afford to delay his sleep. So I think we should do that. So since we do not have Gilvan with us today, though the loss is big, the gain is some extra time for the rest of the panelists. And yeah. But we wanted to do it that way. But we could have done that at this time or whatever. That could have been done. But somehow there are other performances, theater. Some people were already scheduled and some things that Sumi could not reschedule it. It's okay, what can we do? But since it's going to be online, I believe there will be more participants online from different parts because we are going to share the link. That's also there. So that way we have. Anyway, so now I welcome you to this panel. I repeat the title of the panel again for this august audience because you're valuable to us, though the number is less. You're very, very valuable to us. The title of the panel, once again, Creating Digital Resources for the Promotion of Indigenous Languages. All right. We have with us Ciil Dlamini. He is from UNESCO New Delhi. He's the director in charge of UNESCO New Delhi and an advisor of information and communication for entire South Asia. So we're very happy to have Ciil with us today in this panel. And we have Shobna Chellaya. She needs no introduction to this audience. She already delivered a wonderful talk this morning. Now we are going to hear again from her on specific topics addressing this particular theme. I welcome Shobna once again. And we have Alindra Brahma, my colleague from Ciil. He is a Bodo speaker. Among us, he is the only native speaker of a Northeast language, a Bodo speaker. And of course, I'm saying in the panel. Oh, panel, okay. Yeah. So he's going to talk from his own experiences of probably Bodo-Garo languages and to be more specific on Bodo resources for the future. And we also have Somi Roy in the panel, so please call him before the rest of us continue because he's also going to give his views. He is part of his being there anyway. And I'm coordinating this panel, and I've also undertaken the responsibility of, though I would not like to call, the so-called lead speaker. Somebody has to lead something. So I would say let me be the first speaker, that's a better way of putting it, and to introduce what we are expecting, not only from Northeast India, but elsewhere in the globe, because our mission is to safeguard and promote as many indigenous languages as possible. So I thought, let me start with my own presentation to set the tone of this panel, so others will add to it, and maybe then at the end we will have some discussion. So we will, though here we are not strictly following time, actually we thought like we will speak each one of us for 15 minutes and we will have 15 minutes for discussion. So please, one of you can be the timekeepers for my own presentation. So let me know when, like 1 or 2 minutes here and there is fine, but I should not take away others' times because people are waiting to watch other music. Okay, some performances are going on parallelly, so let's begin here. So, okay, so as most of you know, I am also from Ciil. We are also working on several indigenous languages, and this particular panel is organized by us through our Center for Northeast Language Development. We have a center where both of us are involved in it, Lindra and myself. All right, hope this works. So I may not go into the details of my first bullet here because I expected, to be honest with you, I expected a lot of community people here, in addition to the academicians, like yesterday when we had the inaugural session. So that's the reason I thought they may not know anything about the linguistic diversity of India, and maybe I might have been in a position to explain that. That's why, but I did not bother to change my slides because I did not know who will show up now. So the basic idea, nevertheless, I will just hint about it. Linguistic diversity of India, language endangerment, and how low-resourced our languages are, especially from this part of India. Low-resourced technologically, low-resourced otherwise too. So let us see what, and of course they are lesser known in the cyberspace compared to the other languages like English or Hindi or Tamil, which dominate. When you Google, you can get things. So we'll look into it. Also, let us take a look into, not only in my presentation, but also in other people's, the issues and challenges of developing digital resources, because it's not easy to develop such resources. Though we live in the era of information technology, you know that there is a huge digital divide in India, as is visible here. You have, even within Manipur, there are institutions which are highly equipped in technology and otherwise. So we do have this, and we are, so in such a situation now, how do we develop digital resources, like for the wonderful stories on Wonder Child and other things? How are we going to carry forward this Himalayan task? And also, that's why we need to devise some strategies to create multimodal resources, exploiting the digital technologies for indigenous languages. And also, this question is going to be more addressed by all of us, the last bullet, how to preserve and promote these lesser known languages in the Indian subcontinent, because we need to take these cultures and languages and everything related to these communities out of Northeast India for the benefit of knowledge dissemination and also promotion, and also to maintain languages and cultures. But why this topic for today? I'm not going into this because for lack of time, but the basic idea is we are seeing a lot of advancements in technology. On one side, there are people who are developing automatic speech recognition, speech synthesizers, and so on and so forth. On the other side, we are seeing that for low-resource languages, we don't even have even keyboard processors, word processors, or the basic things. Or even some languages do not have their devices to be used in the computer, or be it in social media or dictionary apps, or for simple typing also you may have to use Roman, even if your language has a script, some other script I mean. Roman is also a script. So what is the reality, what we are seeing here? These low resource languages, their visibility is very low. What do I mean by visibility? Suppose you are now want to use a search engine and type Lamkong or whatever, besides what you people are doing in Ciil or academicians putting together their documents, we may have some songs by people who are singing or who are performing, or there are dancers, some YouTube channels. These are all at personal level, individual level. Very low compared to the scheduled languages of our country, the 22 scheduled languages of our country. There are no dedicated websites or any digital libraries developed by central or state governments to disseminate knowledge of their languages and cultures. That's not happening. I'm not only talking about archiving, even to showcase, we do not have such things. So the visibility is very low compared to Hindi or Gujarati or Tamil or other languages. It's not just us. If you take a look at the world, as per the UN estimates, we have 476 million indigenous people in 90 different countries, but these people are excluded from digital futures. We are talking about digital futures. We are still talking about Web 3.0 or even AI technologies, robotic technologies to use languages and propagate them. But for other languages like this, where we are sitting, we don't have even the basic resources. And also in the field of humanities, new things are coming up. Data visualization is catching up. Visualization is important. Like your stories, beautiful stories, what you had. If we had the visual effects, recreate them, that will definitely have an impact on the younger people. And you said many of them don't know the stories, but they will produce more and more versions of it because this is happening now in digital humanities. And that is something we need to do. And why are we interested in this? Because technological empowerment is definitely going to lead us to language empowerment, and which in turn will be useful for promotion of these low-resourced languages. When I say low-resourced, in today's context, in this particular 1 hour's context, I'm only talking about technology. I'm not going into other language documentation and other things because we are talking about creating digital resources. So as far as technology is concerned, we are seeing that the languages, many of the languages in our country are low-resourced. I'm talking about what Government of India labels as tribal languages. Though for academic purposes, we have different labels. How do you define indigenous languages? Many people don't have a single definition for it, though I personally follow the definition of UNESCO, which seems to be okay. The socially and economically disadvantaged and vulnerable people, those are the indigenous people, and the languages spoken by these indigenous peoples are indigenous languages. I like that definition and I follow it. I am not saying you should follow that, but that's one of the definitions I follow. I'm skipping this slide except to show that in India we have, of course, when you see this slide, 22 scheduled languages and 99 non-scheduled. I think this particular group knows about this, so I don't have to elaborate on this. The only thing I would like to capture your attention is, does this pointer work? The red pointer? No.
The pointer is not very good.
Okay, doesn't matter. So you can... No.
Very close.
All right, does not matter. I can just point out from here. Oh my God, I'm dragging the mic. All right, doesn't matter. It's okay. No, don't worry. I lost. Something happened here. Yes. So I just wanted to draw your attention to the various groups. And the Tibeto-Burmese group, this is from Census of India 2011. You know very well, due to the pandemic, the 2021 census is yet to happen. So that is this one. If you see, there are 66 languages that are Tibeto-Burman. Out of that, at least 62 languages are spoken in Northeast India. So a few, 4 or less, that would be the Himalayan part, Tibeto-Burman languages of the Himalayan part. That's the largest group, even though the number of speakers of Tibeto-Burman are less. Okay, so we do have, so of the total population, we have more than 95%, that is 96.71% who speak one of these 22 scheduled languages, while 3.29% speak the other tongues. All right. So this is something known factor. I'm skipping this. And this is also not new, that when the atlas came out of the UNESCO Atlas of World Languages in Danger, in 2010 we know that 197 have been labeled as endangered. Now the question to all of us is not just about these numbers. What have we done in the last 12 years? My question is that, not to simply say these are the number of languages. 12 years have passed by after the UNESCO released its numbers, and there are other academicians and groups who have also given different numbers of endangered languages of all countries. What have we done for the last 12 years? Do we see significant changes? I would say yes and no. Yes, in what way? Yes, in the sense that many of us are working on endangered languages or indigenous languages of our country in different aspects. Because now it has become more like a fashion, if I may use that word. People who are working on NLP or people who are working on different other aspects of linguistics have turned their attention to language documentation. So everybody wants to lay their hands on it. In a way, it's good because more people are coming forward to work. But on the other side, the danger is less trained people are also going to produce things. Production is fine, but the problem is all these things need to be cleaned up in different ways. That is the danger. But also another thing is when it comes to technology, 2010 the number came, and now can we say that these 190 out of these 197 languages, how many of those languages are technologically well resourced? Still bad. So we have been given another 10 years by the UNESCO, saying that this is an international decade. Let's see in the next decade, if I'm still around in this world, whether this, what can we say about well-resourced and ill-resourced or low-resourced languages? Will there be any change in the statistics? Still, we haven't done much, at least in India, when it comes to creating digital resources. I'm not talking about other countries. Of course, this is also a number. Yesterday in Somi's house, we had discussed a little bit about this. We see that we have at least 550 tribes in our country, speaking a lot of languages across the Indian subcontinent. The majority of them are located in Central and East India, 85% of them. Northeast India has at least 11%. Southern India has the least. And these tribes, of course, you know very well, they are all unique in many ways. The thing that they have in common is many of these languages are under-resourced. What is different is the tribes of Northeast India are socioeconomically better than the rest of them. This is one point. But another common thing among all those languages spoken by the tribes of India or the indigenous people is most of them are less documented or unexplored, and many of them are unwritten. They do have a wealth of knowledge systems, indigenous knowledge systems. That's what we are interested, because we know that indigenous languages are not only languages that are used by a certain group of people for communication, but also enormous and complex systems of knowledge, like from every piece. I didn't want to interact in David's session, but every piece of information you collect, you see their worldview. When you say people were discussing were lions there or tigers there or eagles, that's their worldview, how you want to see your world and how you have seen your world. And that has also some hidden knowledge and what is their view of various things. Now, I'm not just talking only about folk stories, it could be anything, medicinal practices, or you have different things. Many such things need to be unlocked because there's a lot of local knowledge in it. Folk literature or ecological wisdom, histories, conservation methods, plant life, animal behavior, and so on and so forth. It's all invaluable knowledge for us. We need to document them because world views of indigenous people are important. It's their view. It's not your view and my view. How you and I interpret the story is based on our world view, not theirs. So that is important. And also, we cannot forget the interrelationship between language, culture, and cognition. This is all we need to do. When it comes to ethnic groups and knowledges, the many indigenous communities from time immemorial have been using a lot of biological resources. But we have not documented much on this. Knowledge, skill, practices, all are disappearing because the keepers of knowledge and skills are very few in number. And the younger generation do not want to learn it. Like we saw that in this morning's performance, the father was telling the son must learn and he's happy. The son was also singing along with him and trying to learn something of his. But that is about music, but it could be for any kind of skill. Very little documentation is done unless visibility in cyberspace. That is why we are saying that it is important to digitize anything and everything about the practices of the community so that it reaches a larger global audience. It should be visible. That's why we have to work up with communities. That is the reason we are expecting, maybe at least in the next Listener Festival, I wish Somi was here, but it's bothering me, so I have to tell that because we are doing a festival not just for us, but we are expecting more community participation. Because if community participation is there, they understand what is lacking and what they can do along with us. That is one thing we need to do. And also, since this place is very rich, I have only 4 minutes, they say, but I'm going to rush through. See, we have to preserve and promote a lot of linguistic and cultural knowledge in the cyberspace and within the community. For lack of time, I may not go through everything, but when there is discussion time, I will come back to it, but I'll take from each slide at least one point. One point from this is to document forest management systems. This is not done in India. So this is very important. We need to collaborate with community geographers and other people because biodiversity registration is very, very, very much important. How do you use plants and how do you develop medicines or what are the different healing practices? These things need to be done. Otherwise, sometimes commercial companies can patent their knowledge. There are several issues when it comes to documentation which have been discussed for many years, and for this particular audience, I don't have to go through this. But I'm going to focus on one important thing is, of course, we are creating recordings, and already Shobna talked about digital archiving. We are talking about, since there is lack of technological and linguistic resources, how do we go about creating digital tools? That is going to be interesting for us. And when compared to the major Indian languages, when it comes to the minor indigenous tribal languages of India, we see that we do not have language technologies or speech processing tools. Anything. We are living in a world where you have so many other things in your pocket. You can use anything like Siri is there, or so many other tools are there for modern languages and well-developed languages. We do not have. And in order to develop automatic speech recognizers, people say, computer scientists say that we need at least 100 hours of recordings for indigenous languages. Mind you, there are 1,000 hours of recordings for well-developed languages, 1,000 hours. We don't have even 100 hours of recording to recognize a speech, whether it is Lamkang or from yours, if I want to say Mru or any other language you have been Lai, or to just listen to it and then get tuned. You need 100 hours of recordings in order to distinguish this. And I just wanted to say cultural language is one thing where we need to develop some digital devices. Recently, I have come across companies like Motorola who have started doing such work in India. They're doing for the Tibeto-Burman languages of Himalayas. So they have roped up with people, I don't know since it's being recorded, I will not tell the names, but there are some linguists known to us who are working with them. And Motorola is developing mobile apps and dictionary apps for such languages. So that is one thing they are doing. And see, these kind of things we need more and more. It's not just for elicitation of data, but we need to put these kind of pictures in a dedicated website. For example, if baskets are a commodity which is very frequently used by a community, what are the different uses of it? They can be used for carrying, sometimes like how this Atang man is carrying, or you have different uses like this for cleaning, for this. So many other uses are there. I use pictures, of course, for data elicitation because this is important nowadays. This is a Roga girl and a boy, and we have some huts for keeping musical instruments. This is recently from Lingam, where we are working on developing orthographies for a language spoken in Meghalaya. We are having problems in creating computational resources. These resources need to be created from existing ones or build up new ones. And many languages are not even written. So what do you do with these unwritten languages? The idea is we know that it is very, very important. Even the language is unwritten. There is rich cultural heritage. We need to unlock that. And how do we get, what can we be doing about it? What attempts have been already made? What kinds of oral literature exists? What will happen to them if it is written? Therefore, if it is not written, what to do? We develop speech corpora and other things. This is one slide I put after listening to Shobhana's talk this morning. Because there were questions, I think it was by you, I believe, about IPR and other things. This is a problem which cannot be immediately resolved, you know very well. But I was just thinking like, it's very important. How has local history been recorded? And even local knowledge. Who are the creators and guardians? What will be their role once a language is written? Many such questions are there which can be taken up while we discuss. Text corpora is one thing we need to build up. For that, we can use techniques like crowdsourcing. That is one important thing. Speech corpora and other corpora tools need to be built. And we also need a lot of dictionaries. This is something which we need to do. As you all know, there are a lot of tools available for making digital lexicons, which also can help us to generate dictionaries. Many more language resources. This second part is something people would be interested. Language games, stories, movies, songs and proverbs. Because creating corpora is one thing. Even in Manipur also IIIT, I think they are doing some work, and other IIT Guwahati is also doing in some aspect or the other monolingual corpora or general corpora. Parallel corpora is also important. But we also have Wordle and other things. Why can't we develop it for Bodo or Meitei or Lamkang? So we need Scrabble I put because everybody knows what Scrabble is. Not everyone knows the new language games. It's important to do that. Stories like your Wonder Child stories, they are what kind of stories they are. But with animations and other things we need to do. Movies, songs, proverbs and so on. And I think some of you are familiar with this publication. This is an interesting one which is brought out by Translation Commons, From Zero to Digital. So it gives ideas for people, community people, if you want to develop something from scratch for digitizing your own language. Like you can, it's freely downloadable. Anyway, quite a bit we can do, build talking dictionaries, create visual dictionaries, prepare online teaching materials, make films, etc. For lack of time, I'm not going into other things, but I wanted to tell that only last point I want to make here is, for many languages you have global digital library, but for Northeast India we don't have. I thought like since we are standing here, why don't we create a digital library for Northeast Indian languages and cultures? So it's a big task to do, but it's very, very important so that once we have such things, the community will be empowered technologically and they will also assist us in helping us to build many important things. For lack of time, I'm just stopping here and we will take over.
But as per information I got that this session was supposed to be for tomorrow as you started, but the rest of the, I'm asking the reason to inform means they're setting up the stage for the fundamental event.
Sorry?
I got the information that this session should be moved to tomorrow, but as you already started,
No, but it is scheduled for today.
Yes. Lack of time. And Somi got stuck there.
But now we started, so we cannot stop.
I don't know.
No, it's okay. Now, since we have started, I now invite. Yeah, we'll finish it. So let's see.
So you can finish. I think you can elaborate. That's what I'm saying. Or maybe ma'am and sir can put more.
I'm leaving tomorrow.
Okay then.
No, we are going to continue the session, but I didn't get you. என்ன சொல்றீங்க நீங்க என்ன சொல்றீங்க? Yeah, we will continue. So so I will invite the. Yes.
So he's
Okay, if he's not talking, it's okay. Like, what can we do?
If he wants to do something tomorrow, we
He
can fill him in tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like we can have a round table tomorrow. So we won't do it this way, but we can tell him what we discussed and have a question session.
Something we can do. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because it's too late too. I already.
Then they know that I should have informed her.
For tomorrow, it must be created by force, right?
Yeah.
By schedule.
Yeah, it was scheduled. Yeah. Anyway, since the whole idea is to have a round table. It's become a round table instead of a panel because we are a few in number. In one sense, it's better because we get a lot of time to discuss. Now I invite Hezekiel Lamini to.
Yeah, I had some questions.
So you want to.
It's just an information.
You can take questions from us.
It's just an information I
You
want.
can take questions from us.
Yeah, we can take. I was just thinking if all of us present, there may be things to ask everyone, or if you want, I can. No problem.
I just needed an information.
Okay.
It's just an information question. You mentioned the Zoom talk for the tomorrow.
Oh, you're not asking questions here. Okay.
My question is, would we get a link for that? A lot of people are interested.
Yeah, Somi is going to create one and share it with
A lot
us.
of people are interested in watching that. So
Yes.
that was my question.
Yeah, he has to create a link.
It might be recorded also as well.
Yes, this is also being recorded. So
But people want to watch it. So it's,
yeah, all right. So that's not to me a question. Yeah. So my idea. Yeah, please.
Okay, so I wanted to discuss the definition of the term indigenous.
Yeah.
That you're. So I wonder if. Oops, someone's calling me. I will call them later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it possible to make a definition that isn't on the negative side, like somebody who's underprivileged or under economic privilege? Can indigenous have a more positive spin on it, and what would that be? I guess is the question.
Okay, you see, since we also have a representative from UNESCO, he will be a better person to answer that. Nevertheless, let me begin that, and then you will add on in your talk as well. See, the basic idea is there is no agreed definition for this term, neither by anthropologists nor by linguists or other academicians or.
If I can add to what you're saying, even in Nagaland when I was there, they were saying, well,
Who is indigenous?
Who's an indigenous language?
See, the question is, that's what I'm saying, there's no single definition, no single agreed definition, okay? People have different views about who are indigenous people and what is Tamil indigenous. If you're saying indigenous going by the dictionary definition, all of us would be indigenous in one way or the other, going back to Africa. All right? I'm not going into all that. But people argue that way too, because they say that if people...
We were originally from South India.
Exactly.
Indigenous to South India, that doesn't work.
Yeah, so the definition of indigenous, the dictionary definition of indigenous is not followed by, at least by UNESCO. Okay? See, somewhere if you have to draw a line, in many of the countries, like India, the people who speak, the 8.6% of the population of India who speak these so-called tribal languages are underprivileged in many ways because they are, except like only two of the languages, Bodo, Santali, they are the only two tribal languages which are scheduled. Okay? Manipuri is little in the borderline, that's different, but they are the two literally tribal languages where when you talk about it. Manipuri is of course also spoken from here. Otherwise, what happens is none of these languages are taught in schools. If you take Lamkang or Lai, or when you're talking about Tedimchin, so it's not used in the schools. It's not the medium of instruction in even outside school in private educational institutions. Also, people cannot give their exams for civil service exam, or the privileges what a speaker of the age schedule has in India are not there for the speakers of non-scheduled languages. That is why they are more vulnerable and underprivileged. I wouldn't say it's negative in one sense, but don't you think it's sad? That is why there are demands by 38 language groups to include their language in the age schedule. That's a matter of identity for them. Because what I enjoy, you don't enjoy. As a Tamil speaker, if I want, I can write an exam of IAS, IPS in Tamil. Or any other benefits, literary benefits and other things. Sahitya Academy also does not, only recently they are giving, but for many, many years they were not.
Like for Rajasthani,
they have included Rajasthani. That's the only non-scheduled language. It's not even language, because some would argue it is a variety of Hindi, and it has been put as one of the languages of the Sahitya Academy award. The one for language for which you can give an award. But there are, so that way, if you see like that, that is one problem, underprivileged, yes. And they are also like, if you see very much socioeconomically not good. Some parts of Northeast India are different. But if you go to Central India, East India, South India, they are very poor. Very, very poor. You know that. Northeast India is in a better position, especially if we go to Shillong. My colleagues used to have 2 cars, 3 cars. I mean, you know what I'm saying, no? They are better off. So many.
Shillong, not outside.
No, I just said Shillong. So there are people you.
Kasi village.
Kasi, yes, yeah.
The villages there.
Village is not. I said Shillong. Yeah, I said Shillong. So there are, like, if you see, but definitely the people of Northeast India are much better than the non-scheduled tribes of South India or Central and East India. So in that sense, yes. And see, another main thing is many people, like many tribal communities are coming to the government of India and seeking endangered status, seeking tribal status, even if they are not tribes.
Right, but that's because...
benefits are there. Because there are some benefits the government of India has, and there's so many other issues into it, that's a different thing. But to say who are indigenous, when you are celebrating the decade of indigenous languages, naturally English is not celebrated there, or French or German. They are not. Because it's very clear, like the minor and minority languages or the less resourced languages, it's very clear. Like we are not saying that 2022 to 2032 we have to promote English, we have to promote French or Portuguese, which are all well promoted.
We can continue this discussion.
Later.
Talk about it overnight, and
We will talk about it, but we can hear from him also. Yeah. So, we can always continue this discussion later. Now I invite Ciil for his presentation, which I believe is in the same pen drive. You will take care of it? Yeah. I'm just going to sit there.
Oh, sorry, the mic.
Oh, I am sorry.
No, it was going to snap.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's in the same.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, this is it. So, thank you very much. Oh, okay. So, this is... Next is here. Right, okay. So I'll just give a short overview of partnerships that we can develop to address some of the concerns that were highlighted by my previous speaker. These are based on what we've experienced or what we've done with partners, but also what we hope to do going forward. So basically, in the area of identification, documentation and codification of indigenous languages. IL there stands for indigenous languages. There is scope for partnerships. I mentioned yesterday in my remarks the partnership on producing the report on tribal and indigenous languages of India. The term tribal and indigenous languages came about because we could not agree that it should be called indigenous language. Languages of India. So the debate is definitely relevant to India, and hence we settled for this, which seemed to be more acceptable to many people, maybe not to everyone, but was more or less acceptable to most people. However, you've heard about Copra and other tools that can be used to improve standards in some of these areas. My issue is, or my concern is that perhaps it should be more widely known how these tools can be used to improve this. Maybe also contribute to just basically the whole exercise of standard setting for documentation, identification, and codifying indigenous languages. And also, actually, I shouldn't just say only documentation, because that documentation for us does include actually preservation. It means we need to have standards that we can promote more widely. And India could be the one educating the rest of us. I come from Africa, for instance. We could learn a lot from what you're doing here in India. So it's a question of, if it is being done already in India, how then do we share that knowledge and that information for the benefit of others, perhaps who are not as well equipped and as knowledgeable as you are here in India. Building skills. This has been an ongoing exercise from the beginning of our engagement with indigenous languages. However, we feel that the transition to designing, not building, but designing or reforming curricula has been slow. Not that it's not happening, but it's slow. That's our assessment. I could be wrong. And when I say slow, I mean in India as well. Because if we move fast in this area, then I think there's much to learn for the rest of the world, or at least for the global south. Again, another point that I mentioned yesterday is legal recognition. Actually, it's not just legal recognition of indigenous languages, it's also knowing how to categorize them for recognition. UNESCO says 10,000 and less, if you've got speakers that amount to 10,000 and less, that language can be referred to as endangered. So it's not even just indigenous, it's actually likely to go extinct in the near future. I must say, in our interactions with Motorola, Lenovo Foundation, Motorola, they had the same concerns, that it doesn't make, well, I shouldn't say that they are the only ones. There are some of those who made concerns, or we had concerns that some of these languages don't make sense to invest in them, in preserving them, because the money or the investment that they have to bring to achieve sustainable preservation of the language would not make business sense for them, basically. Now, these are some of the things that that need evidence. They need evidence from academia, from research, that 10,000 speakers still make sense. A language spoken by 10,000 speakers still makes sense to preserve. We do need researchers to help us make that argument. Because it means we must actually have the data, we must have the impact of the language, we must have the value addition that comes with preserving the language beyond the 10,000. If you can have that evidence that preserving the language actually goes beyond the 10,000 who are at that particular point in time speaking the language, it can make business sense for those who are in the corporate sector to invest in. But there is interest, but it's a question of where, or the prioritization of where to start and where to go first. Production of supporting evidence, as I said, is crucial in this sense, and we think that, I think Uma also mentioned that everybody is doing something in some form and shape. It's not coordinated. Now, coming from the UN or coming from UNESCO, our interest is that we share this knowledge, we we provide the know-how and transfer the skills, to as many people as possible, or in this case, I would say to as many nations as possible. And perhaps that's where, again, we have room for collaboration with partners. Tools. I think tools actually override everything now. Everything is digital. So, but more specifically in digital archiving, building repositories, dictionaries and search engines, this has been already discussed. And I do not need to emphasize more. We need at least to know what exists and where the gaps are, so that we can assess our progress. The decade has deliverables. It is expected, for instance, after a few years, that we will show evidence that these things are happening. Will there be change? Will there be any difference after 10 years? My feeling is that yes, there will be difference, because at least now we all agree that it has to be digitally driven. Unlike 2019, I think we had other approaches. Now I think we agree, and of course, if it is digitally driven, it will be cheaper to find solutions, and that's a conviction that we have. Automatic speech recognition has been mentioned. Development of interfaces or dictionaries, digital dictionaries and so on, are some of the things that we're discussing with Lenovo and Motorola, but they are going beyond that. They are looking for interfaces and apps, as you said, but also interfaces to actually enable people on the ground interact with their mobile devices. So there are a number of approaches that they would like to bring into this collaboration or this partnership that we're trying to have with them. Others have also expressed interest, for instance, regarding search engines. Google has expressed that interest, but they are very selective about which languages to work on. Much more stricter than Lenovo and Motorola. They really want to target those top languages that make business sense to them. Development of internet addressing systems. Now, this is a new one. Maybe some of you are aware of it, some of you are not. To make addressing systems on the internet compatible with IL. It's a concept which will lead to addresses in the internet, especially email addresses, being the ability to have them written in indigenous languages and indigenous scripts. Currently, if you have your email address written in your indigenous language, even if it is the Roman script, but especially if it is non-Roman, it's likely that it won't be delivered, it won't work. And if you give somebody that email, it might not reach you. Nothing will reach you. So standardization around internet addressing standards and systems is very important, and some work is already starting to happen here in India. We have engaged some experts to look into this. These are experts who are working with the ministry, with MeitY, the Ministry of Information and Telecommunication and I don't know, MeitY, you know it. It's complicated for me, that ministry, but yeah, they are working with them on the policy level to issue the standards at policy level for developers of not only software, but also devices. How that would plug in to a multilingual internet. We're working on that report. It's not yet finished. We hope it will be published, at least the first version will be published soon. The idea behind that is that future devices I should have let me give an example. I should have a soft keyboard on this laptop, which if I want, I can flip over to any language that I want to use and still be able to work on the software that I'm using right now to produce, in this case, the PowerPoints that I want to produce. And that's the ultimate idea. But it takes compliance in terms of production of devices and their ability to conform, or if you like, to operate in those languages fully and adapt. It also takes the bringing it into line or aligning the developments online, especially in terms of in this case, when I refer to that, I refer to the standards that are actually currently existing on the internet. The internet has become a limiting factor when it comes to multilingualism because it actually works well in certain languages only. And it has not moved fast, despite the many advances, it has not moved fast enough to embrace everybody on the planet. I think that's my last one. Development of educational materials, I think, is well known, supported by the national education policy here in India. The requirements and the deliverables are well known to all of us. We have to reform the curriculum. Uma mentioned not enough teaching happening in schools, in colleges. I'm also aware UNESCO is interested in that area. Production of schooling material, not enough. Skills development of teachers to teach IL and to teach in IL, not enough. So we do need to address these areas, and we are, we have to find ways to make progress because there's not enough progress being made. Actually, I said the last one, but the last one is the next one. Promoting indigenous languages through traditional and online media. For UNESCO, this is a concern because we feel that there is at least an opportunity that we can grasp to popularize content developing in indigenous languages through traditional media in particular. Community radio comes to mind. In India, it seems quite effective. It was effective during COVID. A lot of government advisories were actually distributed through community radio in indigenous languages. Perhaps it can happen on a more regular basis. Have more government information made available. Now, broadcasters will tell you that it's not just a question of translating. It's not just a question of having automatic speech recognition and have it translated from text to voice. For them, there are certain standards of presenting the content for broadcasting purposes. The production process for broadcasting for them is very specific. Therefore, we have to then have this partnership that addresses their concerns for them to be able to come on board. But it is an area where we can work. Of course, online media also plays a part in this. And I'm sure work is going on in that area as well. But I will address particularly community radios because community radios have this unique position of being close to the communities. And they tend to be trusted by the communities. And I can tell you that more and more, the government of India in Delhi is trusting them more as well. And is developing a more comprehensive or rather an expanded program to support community radio. So there's more and more support that is being provided to the sustainability or sustainable operation of community radios in our community. So it's an important area of collaboration for partners. And I can say honestly, I was hoping that some of them would be here. Because maybe they'll be asking me, but I'll also be asking them if what I'm saying is true and if being here in the Northeast, they are not left out. Because I do interact with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and from what I've seen, there is growing support for community radio, but I cannot say it reaches everywhere. I can only say that if I interact with the people in that particular region of the country. In conclusion, just inviting Imasi Foundation and organizations represented here that let's build a strong and focused multi-stakeholder partnership for indigenous languages. I thank you.
Thank you, Ciil, for your wonderful presentation. Now some questions or comments.
Oh, I see.
Because
I'll wait here.
Because since they asked me, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone? Any questions or comments? Because UNESCO has a larger role to play in safeguarding indigenous languages. Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the major problems in working with these communities is not so much instruments, it's the lack of power supply. So you cannot even charge a mobile phone in many of these villages. And the communities we want to focus, they are in that situation. So, so that is one thing we need to look at. And I've always thought, why in India we don't promote ham radios? Because I know they use it a lot in South America. And because we're talking about in mountainous areas, very, very remote villages, maybe only 1 or 2 families, and maybe you have to walk, 5-6 hours for the next, family. So, we tend to think in terms of villages and, a few hundred people, but in reality, a lot of these isolated places, they're very, very isolated. So I think that is one thing that we need to pay attention to, because as far as, a lot of people now, especially in the Northeast, they have mobile phones and they have WhatsApp groups, and they can work with that. But even with WhatsApp group, I'm working on an endangered language route there, and they put me in 2 WhatsApp groups. One group they gave up; it's entirely invisible, and so then they created another group to learn, route there, which is, they're trying to learn by spoken only, and even that they're struggling. So even that, because there's no planning and there's no curriculum, the idea is good, but it's not working, and people are leaving the group, and people are very, very discouraged because, and of course, COVID didn't help. So that's a ground reality that we also need to look at.
Yeah, I think that was a comment. I think that was a comment, and I think it's a very useful comment to take into account. I mean, now we also have solar as an option. But it doesn't work in the East. Okay. Oh, wow, that's a new one for me.
What did you say we have?
Solar energy.
Solar.
Yeah, solar energy,
But there's
yes.
no solar
In the hills, we don't get no sun.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Ah,
They
wow.
have solar here in the plains, I think.
Yeah, it goes only in the plains, yeah.
Ah, I see.
Not
Okay.
up in the mountains.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
And we don't have public transportation, so even that, communication is very limited.
Yeah.
So when you said radio, did you mean internet radio or old AM, FM radio?
Well, that's a very good one. That's a very good point. Yeah, it's traditional for us means the, FM radio or
FM, right?
yeah, simply because
You're on time. You're on time, please.
yeah, simply because the government recognizes only licensed radio so far, and it only supports licensed radio. It doesn't support any. I mean, online radio should be an add-on, but not the primary channel for communication.
How hard is it to get permission from the government to use bandwidth?
Well, they're trying to ease it up. I came to India in 2019, and it's better now than it was even 3 years ago. But yes, I would say they still check. They do some serious checking. I think some 3 ministries are actually involved in that, including the Ministry of Defense.
I would like to do a radio show on grammar of the language, like tiny lessons, because people don't come to workshops,
Yeah.
but they can have. But I was thinking more in terms of podcasts, or something you could put on a USB stick and they could listen to whenever they wanted to.
Yeah.
Power is a major problem.
Yeah. Power is a problem. Yeah. But that would be a problem for FM radio too, unless you have batteries.
Yeah, so the radio's.
Maybe you can.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
think-
just to add to what Ciil was saying, see, we are talking about devices, digital devices, like of course people have discussed about community radios. It's also important to have community television channels, because these are other things which people are not only Northeast, every indigenous community is deprived of in India. We have hundreds of channels for Tamil or Bollywood or other languages, but we don't have even one per language for these communities. And that's one important thing we need to do, because broadcasting, telecasting, in all possible ways, wherever we can take the languages, how we can exploit technology. It's important that grammar shows, even dictionary, the stories, visual documentation of photo, because these are the things which can be again telecasted in some dedicated channels. If you have a TV like ZTV, why can't you have your own Me TV or whatever, not this TV? I mean, I'm just not giving any name. You should coin something and do something about it. Anyway, so thank you very
you.
much,
Thank
Ezekiel. Before I call upon the next